I do think that this may be Trump's best legislation yet. And I say that somewhat tongue in cheek, but I don't know. Trump has now decided to ban paper straws or reverse legislation that now I'm sure Luke is, has mixed feelings about this, but those paper straws also contain microplastics.
Extremes levels of them.
And they leak. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not plastic free straws. They're paper, thin paper with plastic lining on the inside that has a larger tendency of leaking into your drink. As of course, those paper straws literally incinerate right in front of your face hole, and they're infuriating because then you're left with this little floppy little noodle mess on top of your drink. Every time they have paper straws, I just throw them out automatically. And I'm like, just open up the freaking cup and I just use it that way. This is the most asinine, stupidest thing that has ever been done by one of the most stupidest, most aggravating, most things that have really bothered a lot of people, because they even do this in Miami South Beach. The legislation there recently said, oh no, you got to use plastic straws, non-plastic
wrapped
straws,
in plastic, by the way.
Yeah,
paper
wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
And it's so infuriating. But those things are inefficient. They don't work, and they're the perfect representation of democratic policies.
What do you think about the plastic straw, Gothix? Are you
I hate the paper straws.
They
plastic
are paper
straws, bringing them back.
Oh, I'm sorry, paper. They're
going to infuriate the climate activists even more, So, but I'm excited because, first of all, if I would like to consume microplastics, I should be allowed to do so. That's my choice to do so. But Rhode Island. Several states have enacted bans on plastic. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No. Just to clarify, Gothix, the plastic straws actually have less PFAs than the paper ones. Okay, the paper ones are coated inside of it with the it's kind of like a very thin plastic lining, but then it disintegrates. And once it disintegrates, that plastic melts into your drink. So the paper straws actually are the true plastic emitters. The plastic straws, if you're drinking something really hot, do emit it, but rarely do, especially when they're just made out of plastic.
Now, here's my question to you, Luke. Okay, since you seem to be a wearer of the tinfoil hat.
You mean a fortune teller?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think this is intentional? Making these straws that obviously disintegrate with more plastics. Do you think that's intentional?
Yes, to make you a soy boy. It's called a soft kill weapon that essentially has been utilized as a part of a larger agenda to bring down human fertility in order to progress us towards this larger technocratic singularity takeover. That's what I believe is also behind the larger kind of agenda to get rid of sex and biological human beings and to make them into these Borg-like systems. But that's the deeper down the rabbit hole stuff. But I do truly believe that there is a larger agenda to feminize males out there, and the best way to do it is through microplastics. That's why, again, microplastics free tea you can get available with Jeremy. No tea bags.
That's great.
Even these bags, and again, everything should be in glass. You got to be super careful with it because, when we look at testosterone levels dropping down dramatically, fertility levels dropping down dramatically.
Gen Z's having less sex than any previous generation, and it's not even close.
Exactly. So we're being absolutely destroyed from within by a government that I think is knowingly putting out all these chemicals out there to castrate us slowly and surely, and that's what's happening out there, and it's happening at record levels that are absolutely terrifying to look at. And I know a lot of people that are trying to have babies, they can't. Why can't they? Because of this larger soft kill biological war that has been waged on them, until you only really realize the larger extent of this war and how it's everywhere. It's in your clothes, it's in your furniture, it's in your food, it's in your water, it's in the air. Once you start realizing, holy freaking cow, they've poisoned almost everything around us, then you start making significant shifts, and then you start having less of these kind of problems that the average normal person does, that just does everything that they're supposed to.
I can't remember what was the original legislation about straws in landfills. I feel like that was probably it.
I think it was sea turtles. No,
I thought sea turtles was a 6-pack. I thought it was a 6-pack thing for sea. whatever it was pales in comparison. If you want to look at anything, look at all those face diapers that are in landfills. The amount of disposable face masks that we went through in 2020, we will never get rid of those. The paper straw thing was one of the most bizarre, bonkers, I never understood it. Now, where I live, nobody used them. It was only when I went on vacation. Like if I go on vacation to some bigger city, I might run into them. But like, I never understood them at all because they would just fall apart. Like if you got them in like a shake, they wouldn't even survive to the end.
Yeah, they would fall apart and then biologically alter your whole system. They would mess up your whole endocrine system. You know, that was the larger scam there that I think a lot of people realize. I just sent you a Daily Mail screenshot of them talking about how these green straws raise red flags. PFAS, forever chemicals, identified in 90% of paper straws.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. Yeah.
So that's the type of stuff that we were inundated with. And this is why we need RFK Jr. This is why we need him appointed. This is why there's so many people trying to prevent him from becoming the next HH.
Yeah, Gothix, you need to protect your husband's balls and switch all your Tupperware to glass.
I'm already there. I've been doing that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Microplastic-free tea if you like some tea too.
But also to add, the microplastics are a big issue, but I think also on a cultural level, there's so many things that are attacking masculinity at once. Like even I was looking at a research study that said even the age that men are exposed to pornography is like as young as 8 years old.
Yep.
So you have to imagine before they even get 18, they've consumed so much porn. So once they actually get into a relationship with a woman, they suffer from pee problems.
Yeah,
and that's abnormal. And not to mention, turning men into women, or at least attempting to, is another layer to it. But I can see why they don't want, RFK Jr. in office.
Yeah, it's a lot of these companies that are kind of on the take with big forever chemicals. I mean, if you look back, I know it's Mark Ruffalo, but the normie video that got me, it's a true story. It's called, I think, Dark Waters. It's starring Mark Ruffalo about all the forever chemicals that are in Teflon.
The Teflon, yep.
Yeah, and the agency in charge of regulating those chemicals was DuPont. DuPont was the one making the chemicals. So they were in charge of making these chemicals and then regulating themselves. And it created what is, lawsuits that are still going on today that, destroyed cattle, destroyed underground, drinking water. Killed entire fields of cows.
Yeah, spread cancer, leukemia, and all these other sicknesses and illnesses that people died from, specifically in West Virginia. There was an overflow of a lot of these hazardous chemicals there that there was entire class action lawsuits where they had to settle. They had to pay compensation to people that they knowingly poisoned. Every
one of them. Yeah.
And then they actively fought to cover it up. They actively fought towards not any kind of restitution for the people that they knew they were knowingly hurting. DuPont was literally working with individuals, and they were like, okay, oh, wow, all these people are getting sick here that are working on this one particular project. It seems like there's a link here. And there, of course, was. And the fact that there still isn't any kind of larger restitution or even this larger kind of disclosure, this movie that you're talking about, I saw it recently, too. It was a great movie because it highlighted, there's a guy who made an argument there saying, it just shows you just how corrupted the government is. I know a lot of lefties are saying, look how bad the corporations are. People don't understand. The whole point of that movie just shows you how the government failed and how the government aided, abetted, and allowed a lot of this because they were able to be bought off. And this is the argument that liberals are making that I think is the incorrect argument to make from watching this movie, because the argument that you should be making after watching this movie is, the government's responsible here. The government's protecting them. The government's giving them all these contracts, and it's the government protecting the big guy here that's poisoning everyone else. So this is not a free market argument. This is an argument of people not having any kind of restitution and justice because of the government protection racket.
This is late November 2023. So this is only, a year and a half ago. Another $110 million settlement. Watch that movie this weekend, Gothix. It's pretty good. I know it's Mark Ruffalo, but
it's a good movie.
He plays a real guy who's still alive today and still doing these lawsuits.
Listen, I interviewed Mark Ruffalo a bunch of times. He's wrong on a lot of things, but he's right on some things too. So back in those Occupy Wall Street days, I had very good conversations with him. And, you know, I don't know if I should say this, but he was a fan of what We Are Change was doing like back in the day.
I mean, look, outside of his TDS, not everything he says is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like he has TDS, but I mean, he's a pretty normal guy. So plastic straws was just a smokescreen. It was always just a smokescreen.
But there was a study that was just found last week talking about how there was huge levels of microplastics being found in human brains that are rapidly increasing inside of your brain. You know, highlighting how there's been a huge rise within the past 50 years. Where's it coming from, and why aren't we raising any kind of larger alarm bells about the larger poisoning of our entire Western civilization?
Well, could it be, Luke? That's why 1 in 10 kids have autism now, when 50 years ago it was like 1 in 10,000. Or it was 1 in 30. What's the number? It's
like about 1 in 30 now. It was one in like 1,000, 1 in 3,000, 1 in 10,000, and then those numbers just keep getting smaller and smaller. But they're finding microplastics now in blood, in semen, in breast milk, in placentas, in bone marrow. This is something that human beings haven't had to deal with, but now we do. And it could also particularly explain the larger rise in cancers as well, and these other larger kind of diseases that humanity is being inundated with. As, of course, when we were talking about doing our tea, I was like, no microplastics, no tea bags. All the tea bags filled with microplastics. I was like, no the bag it comes in, no microplastics. And people are asking, how many tea bags are in there? None. All the tea bags have plastic in there. Get away from that plastic. It's everywhere in your life. It takes a while to de-plastic yourself. But once you fully do, and you get the proper water systems, you stop drinking from water bottles, you stop drinking from some cans, you stop putting your food in plastic containers. As soon as you get your food from a store, those black plastics at the food, those are the worst. Those leach the most because they're recycled plastic.
The opaque ones, yeah.
So stay away from plastic utensils, stay away from plastic bins. Try to get your food in glass containers. I have glass containers in my car. And I'm gonna make a concerted effort. If I'm ever gonna get fast food or some curry or some Thai food, I'm like, put it in this glass container. Don't even put it in this plastic one, because it's really concerning. It's really worrying, and I think the average person doesn't even understand how big of a concern this is. But again, record levels. I mean, your liver has some, your kidneys have some, but the levels found in your brain, that's really concerning.